It's the Spin Market Report. Here's your host, Peter Stockdale.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I also want to say the co-host, Mackenzie Schwanke's here as well. Always here. Gotta love to have her here. And we're sitting down with Jennifer Brown. Mackenzie, you know Jennifer.
Oh, yes, I do.
All
We
right,
were in a group called Leadership Fort Dodge. She just so happened to be in my group, and I don't know, we just kind of became friends from it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it just kind of hit it off, I guess. And so when we got the opportunity of talking about the podcast, I was like, she'd be a great one because she is pretty well known, not just in Fort Dodge, but now kind of worldwide.
So we're talking social media influencer, and not just like a little bit like, oh, I post on social media sometimes. You got basically like a nationally famous TikTok account and more.
I do, yes.
All right. So
Instagram and TikTok have both become pretty large platforms for me.
Mm-hmm. So what do you post on there? Let's just go right at the beginning. What's on your social media that is gaining all this traction?
So if I that gives me the opportunity to kind of like open it up with telling you a little bit of my story and why obviously why I post on social media, but I used to weigh 342 pounds.
Okay.
And we figured out yesterday that it was about 5 years ago. I went through a period of time where I just was like, okay, this is time to make some health changes in my life. I really need to focus on, overall health and just becoming a better version of myself for everyone in my life, for my family, for myself. And so I just kind of got started slowly and thought, I'm going to document this. I'm going to see what happens. And I'm going to start from the very beginning because I don't see that very often. I don't see people start from the beginning documenting their stories and showing that they actually followed through with something and said something out loud that they were going to do and then actually did it. And so really and truly my niche, I guess you would say, would be more of like health, fitness, weight loss account. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until I would say probably, I had gotten to a point where I had around 10,000 followers, but after it kind of hit that point, and once I was starting to show like a little bit of like transition between beginning and end, that's kind of when things like kind of got blown up, and I ended up just continuously sharing and continuously, finding little ways to put my story out there and like creative ways and learning a little bit more on how to like use the platforms and how to use the reels and how to create the videos. And then I slowly started accumulating some equipment similar to what you guys have in here. Nothing, as fancy, but like you start to get a couple ring lights around the house. And like, so ultimately my whole start in all of this was basically just a journey of health and getting myself to a place where I could feel, good about my life and good about, not that I didn't really like my life. I've always had a good life. It's just, I was scared that, I would have a lot less of it had I not started working on my health and getting to a place where, I could be healthy. I had some other health issues and my husband has had some health issues. We have a young son, and really and truly that was the drive behind me saying, hey, I've got to take some steps to get healthy.
Yeah. I can totally see that too, where like, I'm not trying to out myself here, but no wife, no kids. And it's hard for me to get motivated to do things like that. But if there's something or someone that depends on you or like that's coming after you or that is underneath you like a child, it's like that. I could totally see where you could get the motivation internally to kind of do that. It's interesting that you decided to like document everything though, because like you said, you go on social media and there's a lot of people saying, I'm doing this, and then you never hear anything else about it. Or it's, here's the after. I'm not going to show you any of the hard work I did, but here's the before and the after. And I think that's probably the thing that's going to be the most people probably grab on or gravitate to the most is seeing you put the work in actually, because otherwise it's like, well, I don't know what you did to put the work in,
Yeah, I do. I think so. I think a lot of it too is that I've changed my mindset so much, and I share very freely about the things that I do. I strive for true authenticity, like I know Mackenzie, you may have seen some of my content. I don't know how regularly you would see it, but it's kind of like, if I'm having a bad day, people know it. And it's not like I'm sitting here going, oh, this day sucks. It's just, hey, I'm feeling anxious today, and here's why. And I want you to understand that this is completely normal, and here's how I'm going to work through it in a positive way. And that's really and truly a big piece of why I think so many people have gravitated towards me is because I have really, you know, I have shared about these really great moments that I'm celebrating, but I also have shared about the fact that like, this isn't all sunshine and rainbows and it's not easy to get here. And I need that truthfulness to shine through so that anybody who is feeling like they want to start doing this, or anyone who feels like, you know, their health is an issue that they need to work on, can see that, okay, even though it is hard, I can get myself here, regardless of what your why is. You know, like you said, you know, you don't have a family, like, you know, like an immediate family or a husband or wife or whatever, you know,
Yes.
Or kids to drive you, but like you probably have something, you know, that you really want to do, some big thing that you're like, hey, like for me, another thing that I wanted to do was go to Glacier National Park and hike. Like I couldn't do that in my former state. I really couldn't, not the way I wanted to.
Exactly.
And now I've been there twice.
Oh,
you know,
wow.
I also, a lot of where my following has come in is because I, as a larger person, I walked a lot, but could never run.
Okay.
And I have developed a love for running and have just recently on May 5th, I completed a half marathon.
Oh my gosh, that's insane.
Yeah, I remember watching your videos because weren't you, you had to complete, if I remember right, you did like the longest run you'd ever ran right before you like boarded a plane or something. Like you had to like practice.
The day before,
It was like,
yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Like it was insane watching your
My
stories.
schedule had to bend and flex that week because I was going to go to New York and I did go to New York, but I had my long run scheduled. So like when you train for these, you have one long run a week. And I had gotten myself up to the point where my long run was at 10 miles that week. And I'm like, okay, I have to run 10 miles because I know running in New York City is a very big thing. Like it's huge. People love to do that there. I do not feel like I could have navigated a 10-mile run in New York City. And I'm really glad I didn't attempt that because I know I would have failed miserably. I did have some friends there that are also runners that that we can kind of talk about too, that they could have gotten me around to it. But, you know, it was that was one of those things. I documented that too. So like I've, you know, kind of like branched off of not just weight loss, but like, what am I doing now because of that? And literally just share my day to day pretty regularly now. You know, in the beginning, this all kept me motivated or kept me going because I would tell myself, hey, you're not going to share content on each day unless you complete a workout. Like that was just part of it. So that was kind of and then I would slowly have a few people comment and message and say things like, you know, I worked out today because of you. I went for a walk today because of you. And then it was one of those, I had a couple of Instagram messages say, I lost 94 pounds because of you.
Oh, wow.
And like, I started feeling that impact of what I was doing was mattering. And like, I will have so many people say, I don't think you understand how inspirational you are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, to some degree, I get it. You know, I understand it. But like, to know that what I'm putting out there is physically changing or helping other people see the potential in changing their own lives is a really big deal to me.
Well, it's so authentic. Like I remember I've heard a lot of different like speeches about mainly like the younger generation about what they're looking for like in advertising and stuff. And one of the things that they always talked about was that they want authenticity.
Yeah.
And how you're not really seeing a whole lot of advertising for the supermodel 24/7. Like it's not just that model person standing there and selling you on something. Like you're seeing more and more real people that look just like 90% of the population. Yeah. But also like, I don't know, the thing I really appreciated, and you've already talked about it, was your authenticity. Like you show the highs and the lows of being in like working out all the time. Like it's not all sunshine and rainbows. And yeah, it's just been kind of cool to see, like, to know you and follow you on social media and stuff, and getting to see how you act or like post about stuff. And I don't know, it's been really kind of cool for me to see that and be like, oh, I know her.
It's
She's
kind of
just such a sweetheart. And
it's funny because you can kind of see, like, I really am. I mean, what you see is what you get. And especially on like people that know me in real life will go, well, like, yeah, you are. That's exactly how you are if you're sitting down with us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of times that is another reason why it's grown to be such a big deal, is because that whole thing shines through, you know, where what you see is what you get. Like what I'm presenting here, this is how I would talk to you if I saw you on the street and it was just you and I having a conversation. So I do, like little morning pep talks, motivational pep talks sometimes. And it's like, I literally look at my own face and I'm speaking to myself. I'm like saying, hey, today we're not going to have a crappy day. Like this is going to be the best day ever. And like, I'm going to push that out because I've worked really hard to change that mindset of being negative and thinking that, like something's against me or that, like everything's stacked against you versus saying, well, maybe it is rough, but you can push yourself through it because you've done hard things now and you can continue to do that. And that, like kind of to touch base on the marketing standpoint of it, I think if you put yourself in, like the younger generation's shoes or anyone really, truthfully, you want to know someone's natural, honest reaction to things. And I think that has helped, in terms of like marketing because
you want to create like a trust with them.
Right.
And if you break that trust, you lose, that connection that you had built with them.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there's different aspects to the things that I've done to get to where I am. I have been utilizing a medication and I've never had surgery, but I've lost this large amount of weight and I truly share my own experience with it, not to push that onto someone else to do the same thing as me, but just to say like, hey, I finally realized that my life is worth going ahead and doing what's necessary. Here's the things that I use, some of the tools I use, some of the equipment that I use, some of the gear that I use. Feel free to use it if you choose. This is why I like it. This is why I use it. Maybe the tank tops I wear aren't what you like, but at the end of the day, somebody may like it. And that, kind of like shows through in how I share that with the world.
Yeah.
I definitely would have to say like along the lines of what you guys are just talking about, like the authenticity of it comes through genuinely. I mean, we've all been online. We've all seen the like, oh, I'm a workout person. It's some dude who's, stacked with a six pack. He's all tanned up and has great hair. That's obviously none of the attributes I have. No, but it just doesn't seem as genuine as it does coming from a real person. And that's not to say that, you're not like fitness model, esque like some of the people online, but it's you can tell it's coming from an honest place here. And it's not somebody just trying to sell you leggings or something like that.
Right.
Just because, well, I'm fit and I have an Instagram account, let's sell some people. So it's not that at all. And I think that's what one of the reasons people are latching onto it so much or at least identifying with what you're saying so much.
It's funny because it's not just the people that we deal with, but it's big brands too. It's very large brands that are going, whoa, this is how these stories are being told. And this is what people want to see. And they want to see it in a way that is truthful and honest. And like, I've gotten a little taste of that because, this opportunity has allowed me to, share content about like, I've recently worked with, a meal delivery service called Hungry Root.
Okay.
So I shared some content with them and that was something that, it was a contract situation where we like discussed, like payment and I have to make that clear in all of my content that this was a paid, but I actually got the products in my home, ordered them myself as if I was, someone who was doing the meal grocery delivery service, sat down with my son, we unboxed it, we looked to see what we got, whether or not we liked it, and we made the meal together. And it was like, if that wasn't something that I felt authentic about, and I mean, you can hear my 10-year-old, I clearly cannot prompt a 10-year-old, and my 10-year-old is just as full of personality as I am. And so it's like, he's bopping around in the background and I'm like, okay, help me do this. And we catch all that. And that I think appeals to people too, because they're like, this is literally looking in my own kitchen.
Yeah.
And okay, wow, that was really convenient. And truthfully, some of those things that I, have come in contact with, I think I've never done any reach out. I've never reached out to any brands. It's all been reached out to me.
Yeah. And I wanted to point out, because I know that you've done some other ones too. Like the one I think of all the time is Brooks running shoes.
Yeah.
What other, can you talk about the companies that you've kind of worked with? Like,
so, in some respects, no. There's a couple of them right now that I am like, because I haven't actually posted content. I didn't know if at the time that we were going to visit, if I could share with you, because the timeline is different based on different brands. And like, there's a process they'll reach out and they'll ask, for you to create some content. You decide, do you want to reach back to them? It's kind of all, how business is done.
Yeah.
And then I particularly I'll create the content, edit it to my liking, how it would go for my style with what I would do to use their product. And, everything that I've done, like one big one is C4 Energy. Like that one I have shared and that one I have promoted. And that one is, I've been able to put that out, and it is so they work with an entity through the TikTok. Listen to me act like I don't know what TikTok is, but through the TikTok shop is what I was going to say, because the TikTok shop is a relatively new thing for the United States.
Yeah.
So that is a whole nother way for people to get product in the first place. And I started doing like little bits of content for TikTok shop, and C4 is something I use every single day. I have like, I don't take it. It's a pre-workout drink. And every morning before I go work out, I have this little drink. It's just like a little energy booster. And so it was one of those things where I'm like, okay, well, that's a natural fix. I'm already doing this. And you don't necessarily get to like request things. They kind of were like, here's what we're looking for. But I was kind of like in my emails, could you please make sure you send me fruit punch? Cause I love the fruit punch flavor. I'm trying to put that. Of course they didn't, they sent me blue raspberry, but it's whatever. And it was good too, but I prefer the fruit punch. I was very clear to them. I was like, I really like the fruit punch. But it's funny because you would never think like, okay, this is something I use every day and they actually want me to create content for them. That's strange because I never imagined that this was all going to be like this, but I've always kind of had like I've always had a drive to like figure out how marketing works and algorithms and how those little things work. And like, it's kind of paid off because I don't make a fortune off this. I'm still working a regular job here in town every day, but like it's just kind of fun to like have a little bit of like, oh yeah, that's cool. And I, have seen a little bit of income come in from it. So
yeah. Cause speaking of income, how does that all work?
Yeah. I guess from like my perspective, I've had like tiny bits of like, I don't say like sponsors, but I've had like a social media presence in some capacity. And I did it the opposite way where I reached out to people and asked them to sponsor me, which is different than the way you did it. So as for translating to dollars in my pockets, it was more like product in my pockets.
Yeah.
Where for you, I think it's like a little bit of both.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
And how does that all work? You reach out or they reach out to you and then do you have to purchase the product and then get paid back later or how does, it
kind of depends on the company itself. So
that makes sense.
Typically, if they're wanting you to create content for them, it's pretty expected that they're going to send the product for you to try. It really just kind of depends. There have been a couple products where they've said, okay, we would like you to purchase this and we'll reimburse, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Like it's, there's just different ways that companies choose to do it. Mm-hmm. And it's really whatever you're comfortable with. So like if I would have said, no, I don't want to, but in this case, it was for treadmill fans. So it's a smaller company. They're called Truly Fit, and they created Peloton treadmill fans, and they're like, they light up and they're like a perfect thing that you hook onto your treadmill. And I absolutely was like, I want those because I have this treadmill and I want these fans for it. And so they said, well, would you purchase from Amazon, see how the process goes? Like they want to see that you actually can do the entire thing, and then they reimburse you for it afterwards. So that was one of those things where I was like, absolutely, I will. Sometimes if it seems, like where I get a reach out and it like, you can kind of tell what is going to be a legitimate reach out. And typically there's a middleman, like there's a creative company that reaches out on behalf of brands and will say, here's how we want to do this. Are you interested? And I pick and choose based on, number one, I think about my niche, I think about my audience, and I think about whether or not I truly would use the product and whether or not I could be authentic about it. Because if I'm not, at the end of the day, I'm not trying to create commercials. I'm really just trying to be like, hey, yep, I tried this. I used it. It's good. I like it. Yeah. Or I'm one of those, if I don't have anything nice to say, I don't say anything at all. So then I won't create the content because it's either I put something negative and be like, this sucks, or I just don't say anything because I feel like that's a better way to be. Me personally, just, let somebody else make that decision.
It sounds like you've had those instances.
Just a few like little things that have been really minor, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't say, anything that I have put out there has not been one of those things.
Okay.
I think the nobility of it all too is like you're gonna use products, but only products that you're actually gonna use. Like you're not, and I'm not trying to use the word negatively, but you're not like shilling merchandise for somebody else. You know, I think that was the hardest part when I was reaching out, because when I had people reach out to me, it was usually for stuff that I didn't really have any desire to use, so I didn't utilize it in any capacity. But like, I mean, coffee. Everybody knows I like coffee, so I had a coffee company, and I were kind of like in cahoots for a little while there. But like, I think that's the thing about this is you're not just somebody that's going online, like I said, like buy these $90 leggings and I get 30% of the cut. You know, there's nothing like that really kind of going on here. I mean, maybe you do get a kickback on some of the stuff, but it's products you're going to use regardless. You know, you're saying like, I like this, I use this is how it worked for me. Maybe it'll work for you. Give it a whirl. Yeah.
And absolutely. There's definite, like, the kickback is minor. I mean, like I said, I'm not making enough to where I am doing this full time. I mean,
she's not a multi-millionaire living in a mansion in the middle of
herself
right. I mean, at the end of the day, there are people who are doing that, and there are people who are living like median type lifestyles who are doing it. And so it is a very real career choice. It really is. It's, but on the flip side, I'm not there yet. I don't know that I ever will be there. I mean, I say yet because you just never know.
Yeah.
You never know what opportunities will present themselves. And like, if I've learned anything during all of this, it's like opportunity is everywhere if you say yes. Yeah. And like, we kind of touched on the Brooks running thing. Like, I have been a Brooks running shoe person since the beginning of all of this. And I bought my first pair of Brooks at Brown's Shoe Fit. I, bought them clearance because I wasn't sure at the time, like where I was going with all this and how invested I was going to be. And if I actually tell you the amount of the number of shoes I have currently, it's kind of like, I'm not embarrassed by it. I'm really not, but it's a lot. I mean, I think I counted last night, and I believe in the current rack, there's like 43 pairs of shoes.
So if you need a pair of shoes, no kidding.
I
come shop at the Jennifer store.
I'm attached, and I told people that it's like a trophy case, because like I look at them like, remember I got those, and I was doing this, and I got these, and I saved the first pair. Like it's just a thing. And then I always made content and was like, hey Brooks, how come you're not noticing that I'm like promoting these shoes and I'm like sharing this? And then somewhere, some way, they had seen some content I created, and they commented on it, and it was like, oh my gosh, I like said this out loud, and it's like happening. And then I got a DM from them, and it was like, we are so proud of how far you've come and that you've used the sport of running to get here. Like, this company is truly like amazing. I mean, the way they treat not only their athletes, but the easy way to say it is an influencer. Like, I'm technically a Brooks influencer, but I'm a part of a team called the Brooks Running Collective. So there's like 237 of us worldwide that are on this team that, have made connections with each other, that have shared our run journeys and how we've gotten here. I mean, we're talking some very elite runners with some very beginner runners, with some runners who've run to like get a better lifestyle, with runners who can run a 5-minute mile and runners who run a 15-minute mile. So, I mean, the variation of people in this group is huge, but it's for this, I applied because after they had sent the DM, and then they said, we want to send you some product, or we want to send you some shoes to keep you going. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, that's been the only thing I've asked for the whole time. So they sent 2 pairs of shoes. They sent a new pair of what's called their Ghost Max, which had just launched at the time. And then they had sent a Ghost 15, which this was last year. And they had even asked, like, what's your favorite color? And purple is my favorite color. So they sent bright purple shoes, and they sent a whole bunch of gear. Like, Brooks, we call all the running, like, clothes, we call it all gear. So they had sent leggings and some shirts and stuff like that. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, this is crazy, because this is a company that I have, like, kind of like worked with. I've loved, like, not worked with in terms of like working with, but I've worked with, like, having that as part of my life and my lifestyle. And now here they are asking me to like be a part of this like this team. And I'm overly joyed. Like I cannot in September, we have a brand trip where we'll be going to Chicago, and that allows for all of us to meet up and just kind of see, how people are and meet them in person. And the gals that I went and met in New York, I met 2 girls that are on the Brooks Running Collective with me, and they took me for a run in Central Park. So, I mean, it's been, I'm like meeting people all over the place because of the things that I've done and because of sharing on TikTok and Instagram.
Which, speaking of New York, because you were there for a pretty cool reason.
Yeah. I know, it's so funny. Like,
because I don't know. I was like, because I think I ran into you right before you.
Store.
Yeah. And I was just, and you were telling me about it, and I was like, no way, this is so cool. But why don't you tell us about that? Because it's a pretty cool thing.
Okay, so with this whole run journey, I started running on a treadmill in the basement, just a basic treadmill. And then I was away from home, and my husband surprised me with a Peloton treadmill. And so then I started running on that and started documenting that. And I kind of like had a day where I was just like talking about what that meant for me. And I made some content about how it wasn't about the treadmill itself, but it was about the trainers and like the things that they say and the motivation that I've gotten just from listening to the words that they have to say, like the inspiration, because they are just like the stuff that they are able to like get you to process in your own head, like, just how hard you are working. And like, I mean, Kirsten Ferguson is the trainer that I like gravitate towards. So she is a run coach on Peloton. And what she has done for my journey has just been like, hey, you're worth it. Like, don't let people think that you're not. Don't like, and it's really just been motivational. It's kind of like how I feel like I portray myself at this point, just like putting out or not necessarily information, but like as much positivity as possible. And so I made content about it. And of course I was really emotional, and just so happened that it caught her attention. And so she saw it and she shared it with the entire team at Peloton. So all of their trainers started commenting on my Instagram post, and we're just like, this is exactly why we do this. And this is, this like, and it just kind of it was another one of those videos that went large. And so went kind of viral. And so she messaged me and she said, hey, I want you to know that we want you to come to New York. We want you to take a class here in the studio. And I was like, okay, yes, can't say no to that. And I had no intention. We were not going on a vacation this year. We had no intention of going anywhere. And I went home that same day. I said, hey, we're going to New York City. And he's like, what do you mean? And I said, we're going to New York City. We have to pick. Here's the dates. Like, when do you want to go? And so we planned our whole trip, and we made it a little vacation. Jeff and I have never taken like a vacation without kids. So it was just a trip, just the two of us, and we went, and I ended up sitting down with their social media team and sharing my story with them. And like, they kind of did this really great little piece on my journey with Peloton and my weight loss journey, and being Kirsten being my inspiration. And it was just kind of really cool to see how all that worked too. And so like, I tell everybody, because my husband's like, we didn't even get you a sweatshirt. And I'm like, I don't need any other souvenir. That like clip is there forever. That's the souvenir. Like, now I can look back on that. And the class itself, like, she kind of does a shout out. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever done Peloton, but it's like interactive working out. And so she shouts people out during the class that are taking it. And, she kind of talked about my story and like how she's like, don't ever let anyone dim your light, and just really like positive stuff. And it was kind of like, okay, this is one of the best experiences I've gotten out of just sharing my story. And so, yeah, that's probably like at the top of my list of accomplishments at this point, which is
right.
And my husband loved New York City, which was weird because I really thought he was going to hate everything about it. He's like, I kind of want to go back. So I'm like, okay, then. Well, I guess we're going back.
You're like, good. Hopefully I can get into another class at Peloton, right?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, now we're best friends. So
yeah,
Kirsten and I for sure have to, right?
Which is
kind of the
really
ongoing
cool
joke. She's like, we're besties now.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. So, and it's funny. Like, when I say authenticity, like, she is the real deal, because when I ran the half marathon, she sent me her phone number and sent me some Spotify songs for for the playlist or for my playlist and said, I want you to message me or call if you need someone to like boost you through this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that in itself like goes to show you, people are people at the end of the day. And, you really and truly like, she's on a more celebrity level, of course, like that's a celebrity to me.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here going, oh my gosh, like really, Kirsten gave me her number. And like, she's like, we're besties now, like, so it's just funny. Like you meet people and you learn who they are and you make the connection, and then like, that's life. Like and I never would have gotten to any of this had I not shared all of these things on social media. So that's why it's like, it's wild. It's really wild.
It's also fun how people like you gravitate towards one another, like, going to New York, getting her phone number, and she's like, I'll be the positive influence if you need it, as you have been for so many other people, and it's just one of those things. I think that, like I said, it's just people like you gravitate towards one another, and it seems to work out really well in your favor. And it's nice that it would have been neat if they were just like, all right, come to New York, and then you're gonna go there and run a marathon or do the Peloton stuff. And if they could have just left that at the end of the commitment that they made to you,
for sure,
and they didn't stop there. And I think that's another thing that I think makes it so like heartwarming. It's just like, it's not just a company that's like, we sell treadmills. It's a cash grab, it's not like that. It's like you said, they're interactive with people that are there. I mean, I haven't done it, but they're interactive like digitally too. Like you can do it at your house and they can see you and still shout you out there because they can see your times and stuff there, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
So they don't see like you running or anything, but they see you on what's called a leaderboard.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, you're right, the times and how many times you've worked out and like whether it's your birthday. And so like, yes, during the class while you're doing the class itself, they will shout you out. And I haven't really ever had a lot of time to do the live classes because they are scheduled. So it's like if you go to a gym, you would go to the scheduled time class, and then you're in there. So your coach might say, "Hey, do this a little bit more. Or, I see you," or whatever. And so they do that in every live class, or every time they're coaching live, they'll shout people out. And I mean, so the class that I was at, I got like this major shout out from Kirsten. She was kind of sharing a little bit about how this was my, like one of my things that I had manifested. I had said out loud, like, I really would love to go take a class at Peloton, and here I am doing it. And she's like, you work hard for something, you manifest it. And like those kinds of things like stick with me. And like you said, you gravitate towards people. I hope that like if someone's on the verge of becoming, a little bit more positive in their own life, that they do gravitate towards me or the content that I'm sharing, or because I hope that that's what I'm doing here. Like I've heard over and over again that your passion is your purpose and your purpose is your passion. And so like, I've been continuing to drive myself with that and just say like, hey, there's a reason that you're seeing this kind of growth on social media. And like, not that I want to share what other people want. I'm still going to share what I choose to share, but it's like, I want to make sure that I am helping to inspire, ultimately is what it boils down to.
Which, I mean, it sounds like in general, while you're motivating and inspiring other people, but it seems like it's kind of in turn doing the same thing for yourself, to keep going, probably even during when you were really focused on trying to lose weight. Is there like a specific story that you have that like probably was the biggest impact that somebody shared with you that maybe you didn't realize how your social media, how all the stuff you were posting, how it affected people until that moment, or just something that really stood out to you among like all of the feedback and that you've gotten?
I would say, I mean, it seems like every single one of them has been, and at this point, there's a lot of people who have messaged through Instagram, through TikTok, who just leave comments and will say things like, I bought a treadmill because I saw your video, or, kind of how I said earlier with the gal that reached out and said, I lost 94 pounds because I started watching you on social media. And the thing is that that's really and truly an inspiration that I used myself, is like, I went to social media and started looking at what other people were doing to get to where I wanted to be. I started watching different fitness instructors and different people who had been on a similar journey. And like, I kind of knew like that was going to be a motivation for me. So I was like, okay, well, then I'm going to keep sharing this from day 1 to day whatever we're on now, 5 years later, and see, you know, like what happens. And I do have like I said, I was kind of telling you guys, like when I share some certain things, like there's certain like clips that I know that will do better.
Yeah.
And so I strategically do think about that, because I'm like, okay, similar videos like this have triggered other people to make comment, have triggered them to go, oh my gosh, that inspires me. And so I'll create content similar sometimes, just so that I can have that go out on the For You page and have that be kind of a drive and maybe catch more people. And I do that because it's like, number one, I like to play with the strategy of how you market with the algorithm. And also I like to be able to really, truly grab someone and say, oh my gosh, I can do this. Like she did this, I could do this, you know? I mean,
yeah, because I mean, I've heard a lot about where businesses, sometimes they say the exact same thing, just differently in social media posts because it works.
Yeah.
But hey, let's just twist the words around. Still saying the exact same thing, but it's something different for people to look at, but it's going to actually still, you know, impact. It's going to reach the same amount, like more people.
Yeah.
Every single time. But then you can do the other stuff too.
Yep.
So that way, as they look at your profile, then they're looking at the other stuff that may not be that big catch that you're talking about, but
it's a little bit deeper.
Yes.
So like it's kind of like what you just said. I do a lot of that. There, for whatever reason, the TikTok algorithm always like pushes out this clip of me running. And it was one of like the first days, like I started this running challenge for myself just to kind of like get myself going. I was going to run 1 mile a day every day for 30 days just to start a habit. You know, I was just going to make sure that I was being habitual with what I was doing.
Yeah.
For some reason, every time I use that particular clip, the video tends to push out a little bit more. So I start with that and then I'll build on it. But like I do similarly change some of the context, change some of the overlay, the text a little bit. I do a lot of progression videos because those tend to get people to come and go, oh, wow, okay, let me dig more into it. And then they'll catch some of my motivational pep talks. And then they'll catch some of my, like, catch me saying this is my longest run ever, you know, because I am a little all over the place with social media, but like I do have a little bit of a like format of, you know, how I'm going to put out my content.
Yeah.
So like I have a couple little strategies, I guess, to get it out there. And this is one that will always kind of bring in new people to be interested in what it is I'm talking about. And then they'll kind of like start, you can always tell because they'll like the video that is kind of going viral and then they'll go through and they'll like all these other ones. And I'm like, okay, so now I can tell they're on my page. But I mean, it's all trial and error. You really have no idea.
It's kind of a lot of reason, like with doing social media, with doing specific, you know, SEO stuff, the background of things is that's the positive of it, of like being very analytical, critical about it, because it starts with them seeing one post, but then that could lead to them seeing more. So like that's what we talk about with a lot of our clients is that same mindset of let's put something out there and then watch how these people go into it. Like some people that causes them to go to the website and then they're starting to look at the 5 different pages because of one thing that you did, or social media wise, like maybe they saw one post and it starts leading on to like multiple posts of them liking it and seeing it. And a lot of people don't see that, know that side of it, and they don't think about that side of it.
It is so interesting to think about that too, because, you know, from a standpoint of like, if you want to get people to like look at what you're doing, you want to get them to connect. If you figure out one thing that works, the most important part is the consistency of it. You know, like at the current point on my own personal social media, I probably post, I'd say 3 to 5 times a day.
Yeah.
Just little things, but they're different. You know, like I may post like one of the transition videos where I show progress. And then later on, I'll talk a little bit about maybe a product or something from the TikTok shop. I don't have a set calendar for myself. I'm not recommending that you don't do that. I just kind of tend to be a little all over the place, and it's personal. You know, it's a personal thing. Like it's not, while I am like driving a little bit of business out of it, it's not meant to be that. So I'm not going to turn it into that at this current point. But if somebody is doing that, I mean, you know, you definitely find something that people gravitate towards, and then, I mean, it works the same no matter, it works the same no matter what you're trying to get across. Like, you find the one hook and then, you know, get them to dig deeper. Like, that's kind of what I've done personally, is find a hook and like use that to have people dig into it deeper.
I mean, it makes so much sense marketing wise. Like, you find the one thing everybody wants, and it's just like, and I also have all this stuff for sale as well.
Yeah.
Or not even necessarily in your case for sale. It's like, I have all these posts too. Yeah, you like me running, but did you know I'm inspirational too? And like, you know, not that the videos of you running aren't inspirational, but it, like, you have a little pep talk, and it's like, maybe somebody's like, well, that's just what I needed, and it didn't show up on my For You page, but I did see the running video, and it brought me to you, and now I see what this stuff is, and that'll maybe change their algorithm to fit, you know, you in there a little bit better the way that they want it, because that's kind of, algorithms are kind of finicky. Sometimes they're like, this is what we think you need, but other times they're like, this is what has proven to be impactful to you, you know?
Yeah, because there's times where I'm putting stuff together and I'm like, this is so good. You know, like, I'm like looking at my own content, I'm like, this is just like, I'm like teary-eyed myself, and I'm like making myself cry over it, and I'm like, God, this is so good. And I'm like, 100 views, that's it, you know, like, and then something so silly as if, like, the green sports bra video, like the one where I practice. I mean, literally the one that I shared most recently has like 18.3 million views. You know, like, we're not just sitting here saying like a small number. Like, I mean, it caused me to be featured in Newsweek magazine. Like, it's caused me to, you know, like, some of these things where it's like people are seeing that, and it's fine, because I'm an open book. I mean, at this point, I share a lot of things on the internet, but.
Or like your Taylor Swift.
Oh my gosh, yes. That was just fun. Like, I had no idea that was going to be what it was. And then next thing you know, People Magazine sends me an email, and they're like, hey, can we get some pictures? And we want to write an article about you. And then I get an email from Inside Edition, and I'm like, that one was really funny, because they did a good solid 15-minute interview with my daughter and I both. They showed like 2 seconds of a clip.
Yeah, so that was like, people that don't know what's going on, hopefully they check out your TikTok and your Instagram account. But
it is a pinned one, just because that was such a,
because you ran through the whole Taylor Swift album, correct?
So I found out that Taylor Swift trained for the Eras tour by running on a treadmill and singing while she ran. Okay, so I was like, Sunday afternoon. My husband's got to work tonight. He's sleeping. My son's upstairs playing Fortnite or whatever he's doing. I'm going to go downstairs and run. I'm going to try what Taylor Swift did. It's just like, so I did it. And then I made it through like half of the Eras tour. Like, my daughter and I were lucky enough to go. And so we're both Swifties. So I start doing this. And I'm like, okay, just record as I go. And I can stop on my watch. Like, it's so, you know, I have such great technology with this, like start, stop. Okay, whatever. And then I pieced it all together, and I was like, well, this is really funny, at least. Like, because I just don't care. Like, and I was like, I showed it to Cameron, and she's like, oh, geez. And she kind of started laughing, and it was kind of just the end of it. And then all of a sudden I posted it, and I'm like, holy crap, everybody thinks this is really good. Like, all these people are like dying laughing over it. And then somebody had said, if on TikTok, if you hold down on the side, it will put it in high speed. And so I did that. I was like, okay, this is even funnier. Like, I'm laughing at myself here, because, you know, it's just, so then, I mean, it ended up being like, I get an email, and I'm like, is this for real? People Magazine wants to write an article about it. Yeah, because other people were trying it. It ended up becoming a trend, and I just happened to like be at the beginning of the trend. So,
awesome.
You know, it was wild. Like, I was really hoping though that Taylor was going to see it and invite us to, because we're big Chiefs fans also, and she's dating Travis Kelce, of course. Everybody knows that, you know. And I was like, I made a video once about how I said something like, well, I already know them, you know, because I went to training camp and we got a football signed by Travis. And then I went to the Eras tour. So, I mean, like, we were in the same vicinity. Like, I know them both, and I hope I get an invite to the wedding. And so I say this in this little video. And then, of course, she comes out with this song on her new album, and it says something like, no, you can't come to the wedding. And I'm like, oh, she wrote a line in her song about me. You know, like, I mean, I'm just, obviously.
That would be hilarious if it was.
It's so funny to like put it all, and Cameron, like, Cameron's been having fun with it. My daughter's been having fun with it too, just because she'll message and say, you should try this, and then maybe we could go on this big brand trip, or, you know. And it's just funny because it was never like, I would tell people jokingly, I'm going to get 10,000 followers on TikTok, and everyone would go, okay. Well, now here I'm pushing 80,000 followers and 17,000 on Instagram. And it's become something that I'm like actually, going and like doing things like this with, and so it's really and truly been like an experience, and all because I was just willing to be honest with who I am and just share my story.
Yeah, I will say that's like one of the craziest things is we're talking about this and we're saying social media influencer and 75,000 plus. I mean, it was 75,000 when I made my notes, but like you said, it's pushing 80,000 followers on TikTok. The other stat I had was 2.7 million likes. That's not just your view. That's like the amount of people that are actually interacting and liking your video. Yeah. That's insanity.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
I tried my best to be some sort of a social media person, and like 1,500 likes. That's you're dwarfing numbers of the. It's your hard work is paying off in spades, and people are enjoying it. I think one of the things that's most interesting to me is you kind of started this as like a personal quest. This was mostly for you. You put it on social media to keep yourself accountable, to share with other people your story. But did you ever think you're going to impact this many people?
Absolutely not.
I mean,
I didn't think this many people would even see the things I'm putting out onto the internet, let alone have this many people, reach out, and no way.
Was there a point in time where you were just like, oh, wow, this is getting big? Was it scary at all? Or I just have so many questions. It was like, 20,000 people following me. I better not mess this up. Was there anything like that, or?
What's funny right now is there have been people, like my son and I went to a movie. And this woman, I mean, she was an older woman. I would guess maybe 70, 75. And she turns around and she goes, I follow you on Instagram. We're 8 movie theater. And I was like, you do? That's awesome. She's like, yeah, I'm friends with your stepmom. Okay, cool. So there was that, where I'm like, that's awesome. Great. And she goes, you're real inspiring. And I was like, thank you. And she's like, have a good night. I'm like, okay. And then I have had a couple of other instances too. Like we were at a basketball tournament. My son played traveling basketball, and we were in Waterloo. And one gal stopped and she goes, "This Iowa mom, oh my gosh," And so like that was like one of those like, whoa, because it was the first time that had ever happened where I'm like out in public and someone actually stopped me. But I was like, it was really nice because she was willing to say hi. And then the biggest positive out of it was when I did the women's half marathon. I had several people who were running that also, and they came and they were like, can we get a picture together? And like, it's not even like the fame part of it. Like that is not, it's just the fact that they were willing to like put themselves out there and say like, hey, you've inspired me. And like, just to be able to say that face to face was really nice because, it is through a screen. And a lot of times it is just text messaging, and like people are more willing to be brave through that. Obviously we know because there's some negative sides of it than they are to come and say face to face to you, hey, I see you. And it's a positive thing, So like, that's where I really like, I've had really positive experiences. I've had never at this current point, have I had anything that's been like scary, I would say. A few weird comments from time to time, but I've got a pretty thick skin. So that kind of thing doesn't bug me. And then, yeah, I mean, other than that, it's been the real life thing has been kind of strange just because it's like in random places where people are like, oh my gosh.
Just watching your son play basketball and
yeah. And
all of a sudden people notice you.
Here is a really crazy story for you guys real quick. So I had met this gal or had followed this gal on TikTok because she inspired me, and she lives down south in Georgia. And she's a runner, and she lost a lot of weight from having her own health journey. And she's been running, they call like ultra marathons and like 100 milers she's training for right now. Yeah. So she made a comment, or she made a piece of content where it said, my husband's looking at me and shaking his head because I just told him I signed up for Relay Iowa. And I was like, oh, you're coming to Iowa? Okay. So we're going to make that happen. And just this weekend, they ran Relay Iowa, her and 11 other people. So it was meant to be. Because I messaged her on there, I had another gal message me and say, can I just ask you a question? Like, what part of Iowa are you from? Because my parents live in Fort Dodge.
Oh, wow.
And I was
That's
like,
crazy.
what? So turns out she grew up here and we've now gotten together. She lives in Chicago. And she met Linz, the gal that I know from social media. She met her from a hashtag called Run Talk. So we've all used this hashtag when we share about our run journeys and we say Run Talk. They met at the Chicago Marathon because they both ran that marathon. And then they had a team put together of random people from across the United States called Team Random that have all met because of that hashtag Run Talk on TikTok. So they all share their run journeys on TikTok and they've gotten together. So I went and I met up with them this weekend and I tagged along on a gravel road. They were running miles by miles and I would just move my car with them for a little while. And my friend Sarah, Sarah, she went from leadership, Sarah Adams, she went with me and we went and just cheered them on. And turns out 11 of the 12 runners got deathly sick. Like they were all throwing up on the side of the road.
Oh, wow.
But like they all caught this flu bug and they ended up finishing, but it was quite a story. And I'm like, all of that happened because you guys met each other from TikTok. Like,
That's crazy.
it is so wild. Like just the things that happen. So
That's okay. So there you go. Positive things can come out of TikTok.
yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what you gotta watch, and like stay away from the negative part of it.
Oh, I think that's a lot of social media, unfortunately. But it's nice to know that there's positivity out there too.
For sure.
So we're getting kind of close to the end of time, but I do have a few other questions I really want to ask you. So like, have your goals changed at all?
I'd say my goals are like leveling up.
Okay.
If that makes any sense. So, where in the beginning it was basically run a mile, lose the weight, get healthy. Now it's run a marathon this year on my birthday. So I'm definitely attempting that on October 20th. I'm going to try to run the Des Moines Marathon. And, just continue to take what I've got going now and, kind of just keep pushing that forward and up and seeing what happens. I a lot of times I don't share my goals out loud at this point because I have seen a lot of things that have told you, like, if you share them out loud, there's a more of a chance that you're, going to set yourself up to maybe not accomplish them. So what I've done is I've made a list and I've just kind of been sharing them as I go. And so that's kind of where I'm at with like that part of it. But I would just say like where I am now, I just plan on continuing to like work towards better.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. Has this impacted like your work-life balance at all, having some sort of social media? Like, I understand it, like, you post, like you said, about 5 times a day, but I don't really see you being the person where this consumes your everyday activities.
So I work out early in the mornings.
Okay.
I'll do like content, like I'll record content and then have an idea for what I'm going to do. Sometimes it's similar to what I've done in days past. I'll record that piece or I'll use little pieces that I've recorded in the past and piece them together to make some kind of content, use old pictures, whatever. I do my morning pep talks in the morning and then I'll edit those. Those take a short period of time. So I'll do that before I go to work. And sometimes I'll post a video on lunch and then I'll do scheduling posts so that I can make sure that stuff will post at like prime times when my audience is kind of watching. But like I do all that stuff ahead of time. And then in the evenings, I kind of do the same type of thing. Like not necessarily that it doesn't take me, I'd say it probably takes me maybe an hour and a half out of my day.
Okay.
To where I like have to organize a little bit of this.
Yep.
Sometimes longer, it just depends on the day, but on average, I'd say.
Yeah, but you're just like bookending your day. It's almost like you just added 45 minutes at the beginning and 45 minutes at the end, and that's where you take care of everything.
Yep.
It's not like you're sitting down in the middle of the work, like, hold on a sec, I got to run around the block and do a selfie camera on this real quick. Like,
I mean, if there's a time where I take a lunch break walk and I'm sitting here going, okay, like I'll talk to like, that's the weirdest thing. I'm sitting here walking around Fort Dodge talking to my phone and I'm like, it's fine. People probably just think you're FaceTiming. And I've kind of gotten to a point where I just don't care.
Yeah.
You got to get to a point where like you're doing something that like on the level that you're doing it on, you just can't care about what anyone's thinking as they drive by or.
Well, yeah, you're not doing it for the people driving by in their car, though. That's like you said, though. It's not always easy to just disconnect from that. Though,
yeah,
either.
because you got to get your brain to go. Do you care that they're watching you? Because at first it was really weird. Like here I'm like trying to share about like how you should incorporate protein all day, or like how that was a big factor in me. Like meeting my goals of like catching like the calorie intake or blah, 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 whatever, you know, like the more detailed type stuff. And I would go for a walk on my lunch and like create some content sharing that while I'm out walking. It gives me something to do while I'm walking. And then it's, you know, trying to share helpful information with people. But then you're kind of like, oh, okay, I hope nobody's like overhearing me talk about that, because that's really strange as you're walking down the road. So now I'm just to a point where I don't even think about it. But
how cool would it be if you're walking down the road doing that and somebody's just like, when you're done recording, be like, hang on a second, I heard you talk about this. What's the deal with this? Because I've got questions now.
Yeah,
like,
right?
That'd be so fun. So yeah, I keep going out there in public and doing it. This is one I'm going to spring on you. It's not on our little like checklist sheet that I kind of sent you out ahead of time, but like, do you have any like maybe like a nice little one line of advice for somebody looking to start a journey like this? I mean, it's you probably have it all over on your TikTok, so definitely go check that out. But is there anything that like, you know,
yep.
What's the hardest part about starting?
I can tell you exactly what I have told people over and over again. It's literally something little every day. I mean, I think this journey is something that, you know, I've always struggled with weight. I've always struggled with being in a healthy body, and I have tried a million times before. And I think many people, I mean, I think that's kind of something that we always do, always, if we've ever had a difficulty with this. And the minute I realized that you cannot make change instantly overnight, but that you make change over time, and that it's something small every day is better than nothing at all, that was when I started seeing success on this. And so it was like, okay, even if I only drink the 3 Stanleys of water today, even if I only went for a 20-minute walk, it's still something more than I would have done if I did nothing. And I think that was the biggest thing that I learned, that was like, okay, got to quit trying to hyper focus on it. Like, just let it happen when it happens. And so something little every day. It's so cliche. It's so like you hear it a million times, but it's so true.
That reminds me of something my sister always said, because there was one day I was trying to get to work out, and I was talking to her on the phone, and I was like, I don't want to go. Mm-hmm. I said, I need you to help motivate me. And she goes, you're never going to regret working out. You're going to regret when you don't work out.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that actually motivated me. So shout out to my sister for motivating me. But I think that's kind of like on your similar, you know, mindset with what you're talking about. A little bit is better than nothing. Mm-hmm. And yeah, like that kind of changed my focus of how I thought about working out, is that, yeah, sometimes it's like another thing in your list to do, but you're not going to regret going there.
Yeah, that's the most important part of my day at this point. And that isn't for weight loss. That is for me to just be clear in my head. Mm-hmm. You know, that I need that just to have my head be in a clear, good space, and like just to like put me in a good mood. And I think too that is a huge deal. Like it really is. You know, they say exercise is medicine, and it's so funny because you're like, okay, whatever. When you're not wanting to do it, and it doesn't. At the time that you start, it doesn't feel good. It's always like the first mile is a liar too, you know, because the first mile you're just trying to get out of the ick. And then once you do, it's like, oh my gosh, I feel so good. I'm really glad I did that. And it's like, I wish that feeling could be shared with more people.
Yeah.
Get past that little few minutes of not wanting to.
Yeah. You have to get through that initial starting working out, almost, awkwardness. Mm-hmm. Like it's uncomfortable. It's not, you know, your normal thing. So it's like trying a new thing and just throwing yourself into it. And it's like, you got to get used to the uncomfortable and things not being like, they're just not going to be easy for you right away. And you're not going to see things change just right away. But that pays off eventually.
Yes.
And yeah, it's definitely for sure a mind game. And that's what I've kind of started to learn because I just started my whole working out and stuff. But that's been a big mental thing for me, is to get in that mental mindset, to see it differently than just a job, like almost like a job, almost like it's like just another thing that you have to do, another thing you have to get done and stuff. But there's a mindset to it that can be the game changer between just doing it to I actually kind of enjoy it. You know?
Like, you think too, we get to. I love that because that's a big Peloton. Like Jess Sims says that a lot. We get to do this. Like it's not we have to. We get to because there are people who don't get to do it. So
I think showing up is like the hardest part sometimes.
Most definitely.
But I mean, you just started working out, and every day when you come to work, you're like, oh, yesterday at the gym, people said this, and you're having a blast at the gym.
It helps that I have friends. I started going with a friend of mine who has been working out for a couple years. And that's been like the big game changer, I feel like, for me. Because it's somebody that knows what they're doing, but it's not like the person working at the gym. Yeah. I know it's so weird, but the person, if it was like somebody that works at the gym, it's kind of instantly like, I feel like I have a light on me, like, oh, hey, this person's new. She doesn't know what she's doing. Right. But I'm working out with a friend, and it's kind of like my time to hang out with her. Yeah. And so it's been weirdly fun for me.
It's supposed to be fun though.
Yeah.
That's just it. So many people have this misconception of that this is supposed to be torture to us. And like, it's truly a celebration of the things that you're able to do with your body. And that I think too is such a, like, it sounds so like hokey to say stuff like that, but it's so true. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, I think it's awesome that you've gotten to that place of knowing that, like, oh, this is supposed to be like, I'm having a good time. Yeah. You're supposed to, like, if you're not having fun at it, that's another one-liner. If it's not fun, why are you doing it? Yeah. You know, you see like gym people on social media, and they'll say, you can't achieve your goal if you don't lift really heavy. And it's like, no, here's how you achieve your goal. You pick something that you like, that you find that you can love, and you just do that over and over and over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. And no matter what, you're going to get to the result you want to get to because you're consistently doing it. Yeah. And that's the thing that sucks about social media, and the misconception is that people try to force their own beliefs of how they've done something on someone instead of just saying, what you got to do is just do something you like and do it over and over again. And that's what it boils down to. Yeah.
I mean, that'll work for everybody. But like lifting heavy things, that might not be what the end game, that might not be the path to take to get to the goal that I actually have, you know. But I mean, like these little motivational things we've all said, like one of my favorite ones is such a cousin to your guys's. And it's no matter how short of a distance you go, you've lapped everybody who sat on the couch. Right. And so it's like things like that where it's like, as long as you got something that works, just stick with it. It'll keep going, you know, and you'll have the results in the end.
It is. And it's funny because you've heard that probably your whole life. You've heard different things like that, but until you're like actually in the act of doing it and seeing that, like, oh, that's actually really working, and that actually does work. Like if you just show up for yourself. Yeah. And it is the hardest part. Like most definitely that's the hardest thing to do. I mean, I know that it's going to be the best part of my day, but there are days where I'm like, oh, I just don't want to go do this right now. And I want to stall a little bit. And like, yesterday was a day like that for me. Now today, this morning, I didn't work out because I ran 5 miles yesterday, and I'm getting ready to get into this training program. I'm kind of taking like a little bit of a break. Like I've still run, but I'm trying to kind of like ease off so I can prepare to like get into this other training session for this marathon. And yesterday I'm like, okay. And all I could think about was there are 12 of my new friends who are like feeling sick to their stomachs, but are still pushing through running across the state of Iowa. I can go run my miles. Like, let's go. And so then I did it, and it felt great. Obviously it was best part of my, best part of my day. And then, I got it done, and it was good. But, it's just like finding the reason that you have to keep going and then getting yourself to do it. Yeah.
I think, I was just thinking about the amount of times that I've gone to work out, and while I hated going, like I might not have wanted to go, I don't think I ever left hating the fact that I worked out. Yeah. Like I don't think I ever was like, oh, why did I work out? That was so like such a stupid idea. Never doing that again. Like it was never that mindset. Mm-hmm. It's just, it's just something I was, as you were talking, I was like, I've never had that thought, after you work out, you're never like, I'm never doing that again. That was stupid. Why would I work out? Yeah. Like it's always the initial getting to the workout.
Yep. Just starting.
Well, we are getting down to the end of this podcast. Has this been a workout for you?
Did you want us to record it while you're running, and we could just like drive alongside? I'm not running alongside of you, but
you know what? We could have tried that.
We've got the gimbal.
Oh, funny.
Oh,
Next
man.
time.
Okay. Sounds
Okay,
good.
so we got one question I like to ask everyone this. Is there any time in your life or any, maybe even now while you've been doing this health journey of yours, is there something where like marketing has impacted you in a way that you might not have even noticed it was impacting you? Like something, could it be the Brooks shoes? I mean, you were, before they even said, here's some shoes to wear, you were already wearing their shoes.
I mean, most definitely. I think that, I think marketing impacts me without realizing it all the time. I mean, all it takes is for me to see like a little clip of a video that I'm like, oh my gosh, that was like really inspirational. And like, in fact, to kind of spring off the Brooks thing, Jeremy Renner, Hawkeye from Marvel movies, and he's the king of Mayor of Kingstown. That's the TV show he's in right now.
Okay.
Well, he almost died, like not very long ago. He was in a very bad, I believe it was a snow removal piece of equipment, something.
It was something.
And he was, I mean, they really did not think he was going to live through it. And it turns out that he did, and he has recovered, and is working towards recovery. And they told him he would never run again. I mean, they said, you're never running again.
Yeah, I think I saw this video too that you're just about to talk about.
So
it was crazy to me.
Brooks actually, without any reason, sent him shoes because they knew that their podiatrist just rave about their shoes, and like they sent him shoes and said, we want to help make your journey more comfortable, and like if you do get to a point of being able to run, try these out. And so he signed up to be a spokesperson for them because of the fact that they did that. And like he shared his story of how like, he's like, I thought I was dead, and I saw that, and I'm sitting here like, oh my gosh, like that right there would have made me go buy 50 pairs, and like not even realizing that like just the story of what he's sharing, like how that would impact someone, so emotionally, and like, yeah, I mean, so I would say, I mean, Brooks is a huge one that, they impact you without even realizing. And then add that extra layer on, like, I didn't know that was going to be, even being on the social media team, they had made mention of having a celebrity spokesperson, but they never said anything about who or what, or, all that stuff's very hush hush. Like, you guys know how, like, you put together campaigns, like there's certain things, and like the fact that you don't share anything until it's happened. And like, so that was one too, where I was just like, I would have gone and like bought stock in the company if that was an option after seeing this, because it was just so powerful.
Which it's awesome because it shows that the company cares, and it's not just about them advertising to help themselves. They actually genuinely cared enough
to invest
help
in the story of the person's life. And it shows that way for me too. Like here I go ahead and say, I love your shoes, and then they send me them just to say, we see you, and we are paying attention to the fact that you are using a product that we don't, I mean, they didn't have to do that.
Yeah, you were already wearing the shoes.
Right. I'm already invested. Trust me, I had plenty of pairs with them.
Thanks, and that was the end of it. But.
Right. Just the comment alone was like, whoa. But to the fact that they went above and beyond, and like, I mean, I think that is a huge one. And I could probably apply that to a lot of different things when I start really thinking about it. Yeah. It's just like the powerful things that move you to go, okay, I'm invested in that company. And it kind of goes back to what we started with in the beginning here of being authentic in what you're trying to put out to the world, and it will pay you back. Like, don't set out to go and like sell me a product, but teach me who you are and like what you want me to achieve if I use your product, that kind of thing.
Gain the trust, earn the trust, and then like keep the trust.
And build it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you're saying all this stuff, it made me think like this is actually what you might actually be the thing that like you're marketing health to people, and they might not know they're being impacted by it and being inspired by it and going out and doing it, and just seeing you online doing it. And you have proof of that with all your DMs from people saying, I did this, I lost weight, I bought a Peloton or whatever,
I'd be interested to see how many people, like I've never done like Peloton has a referral program, but I've never really put that out there to the world, like, because it's not about me trying to make money off of it. It's just like, hey, this is what I do. But I would be interested to see that statistic, like how many people have actually seen my content and then went and got a treadmill. Because it's been said to me, but I've never kept track of it. You know, I'm always just like, I'm really proud of you for trying to
maybe
do
now
this.
we need to post something and see what feedback you can get back about what people did because they saw your stuff. How cool would that be?
Yeah, it is. It's, I mean, it would be interesting to see statistic wise, like, hey, what made you, you know, like on the back end, when you create, like for the TikTok shop thing, they actually do allow you to have analytics so you can see like who's buying product from the different things that you know, because TikTok shop is new in the US, and like, not to drag out our conversation or anything, but it's really cool because it allows small businesses to create a storefront, and then it allows big businesses to create a storefront, and then it allows creators to get a little kickback from, as far as commission goes, if any of those products get sold by content. So, I mean, it's an entirely new way of sales that people really don't even grasp yet. I think it's going to become more and more normal. It's going to be like, you're going to end up seeing more people buy a lot more mainstream products just from seeing people's content. I think it's going to, but that's just my opinion, you know, watching it shift that way and seeing that. But
well, speaking of content, you've got plenty of it online. So everybody make sure you go follow Jennifer online and check it out.
Yeah, it's my TikTok handle is This Iowa Mom, and my Instagram handle is also This Iowa Mom. So
there we go. Make sure you check it out. Let her know who sent you there. Thank you very much for sitting down and talking.
Thank you for having me.
I gotta say thanks to Mackenzie for putting us in touch with you. It's very fun.
She's probably one of my, you know, coolest connections I have.
I mean, I don't know about that. I like to tell everybody, I'm like, I'm just normal. Like, I live right in the middle of Iowa, and you know, like,
I think so in Leadership for Dodge, they do you have to introduce yourself to the group. Everybody has to do it. And is it 3 minutes or 5 minutes? I think
it was 5 minutes.
Okay. And you did a TikTok, didn't you? And everybody was just like, no way, she's famous on TikTok, and nobody knew at this whole time. And it was just like a crazy thing for all of us. So we're just like, she's famous and nobody knew. And it was just a really cool thing to see.
Yeah, it's not something that I'm like going out and being like, oh, by the way, I have this many followers. You know, it's not, and here, obviously I did that because we're talking about it. Yes. But in general, day to day, I don't just go and, you know, and say like, oh, by the way,
you're not walking around wearing a shirt that says I'm TikTok famous.
No, definitely not doing that. And it is, like I said, it is a little like, it's a little like when you get that someone saying something to you, you're kind of like, oh, yep, that's me. And I've tried to own it. You know, you try to, because like, I know it happens that people will see me, and I love that people will say something to me, but it is still a little bit like, oh shoot. Yeah, that's me. You saw that, huh? Like, you saw me crying on the treadmill. That was me. I mean, that treadmill has had a lot of tears shed on it. I can tell you that, but.
Well, I just want to say thank you for being so open and honest with us and everybody else online, because you are very open and honest with your social media, and it's very endearing to see that. So
thank you.
Absolutely. Continued success on your journey as well. I just gotta say, wow. You know, it's very impressive.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
This podcast is produced by Spin Market and Digital.
Located in Fort Dodge, Iowa, Spin Market's highly skilled team can help you increase your market by updating your website, improving SEO, designing advertisements, and producing podcasts that will grab the attention of your market.
Contact Spin Market today for all your digital marketing needs at digitalagent@spinmarket.com or call us at 515-302-8026. And to learn more, visit our website at www.spinmarket.com.
That's digitalagent@spinmarket.com or 515-302-8026. Or visit our website www.spinmarket.com.